Hello friends, welcome back to 5 Agendas. Gonna try something a little new for our readers and viewers out there, our friends and family and brethren that are watching. So I've been using Zoom to share screen so you can follow along, but I'm gonna try something a little different, maybe a little easier, so you can just listen and, because it's kind of hard seeing the screen and going from column to column and being able to or not able to zoom in. And so we'll try it this way. And what we have a small audience before me now, the family. And what would be funny if I just take the camera and just rotate it around, you watch everybody scramble for cover. No, I don't want to be on YouTube. But yeah, we're here. And so yeah, we're going to share with you the recent thought paper, June 15th, 2022. The link will be in the description box below with the other thought papers that are being done or have been done on the Godhead. So this is called the Great Declaration. The first angel's message, the everlasting gospel. So you may, like I was at the end, ask yourself, where have I been all along? Or, it's about time for this to come out into the open. Well, here we go. So, but it's time to, as Jesus said, whoso readeth, let him understand. Okay, and yeah, so the Great Declaration, what is that? So we've been talking about the Elohim Declaration, Revelation 22:11, where the Elohim, the two of them, speak at the same time. He that is righteous, let him be righteous still, and he that is holy, let him be holy still. Which is very similar to Isaiah 44, where it says, thus saith the Lord. I'll read it to you. Here we go. Because it's pretty important when we have both of them speaking at the same time. And, yeah. Thus saith the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts. So they're both speaking. And so when they're both speaking at the same time, the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, okay, they're both speaking, I am the first, and I am the last, and beside me there is no God. Okay, so there's your declaration there, but also the Elohim Declaration, Revelation 22:11, but there's this great declaration in Deuteronomy, and so that's what we're going to go over. And it is a great declaration, and it's both of them speaking. Again, so, from the thought paper, the Shema, Deuteronomy 6:4, mark of the beast, the Shema of Israel and the mark of the beast, okay, which we've shortened to MOTB, mark of the beast. So the number one theological issue of the 1290 days of Matthew 24:15 is not the Sabbath. And this observation will disappoint a lot of folk who have for generations, as I was, been brought up to expect a certain train of prophetic events that ends with the National Sunday Law and the time of trouble of Daniel 12:1. Events did transpire in the 1890s, and Sunday Blue laws invoked in many states of the Union. In the thought paper, there's a link. You can go here and have a look at more at that. And what's good about this, the online and email edition, is you can click on those links and go do this extensive amount of research that's been put into it, a lot of work. And, it's not saying you have to go and read every single word in these links. But if you sped read them or had a look at them and got an idea, it'd be more helpful than not, right? Okay. So in very recent times, as you may be aware, you will have heard many spiritual leaders in fundamental Christianity have delivered presentations with sincerity, no doubt, on their online channels, okay, on TV, in their published literature the warnings of how the mark of the beast of Revelation 13 are related to the health mandates orders globally. Okay, but is it true? Let's take a look. Okay. But first, to be able to provide an accurate analysis about the reality of the mark of the beast, which God states occurs during the last 30 days of that 1290, because you got your 1216 and then your 1290, right? Of Matthew 24:15. Attention must be given to what God has said is the precursor for the third angel's warning and the mark of the beast, because that's what the third angel warns about, right? So we've got the first angel's warning, the second angel's warning, and the third angel's warning. So we're going to be dealing with how the first angel's warning, okay, is directing you to the true. And the reason why the third angel gives a warning is about the counterfeit. Okay, it goes against the true first angel's warning. And how this all relates to what's going on in recent times and the mark of the beast. In other words, the basis for the mark culminates as to the third angel's warning, which equals the dragon's mark in Revelation 13:16 to 18. Okay. God has set out the number one issue for the 1290 days, and it is very clear. Why? Well, because the abomination of desolation is to remove entirely Christ's eternal divinity. Okay? Which is all about the Lamb slain from before the foundation of the world. Okay, and this is what we've been talking about in the Elohim Declaration series. Okay, so in a nutshell, the deception, the enemy's tricks, the lie, what we need to not have anything to do with is anything that takes this lamb that was slain from before the foundation of the world and tries to take away his eternal divinity by him being literally begotten, birthed, born, brought forth, emanated, whatever, in eternity. Okay, it just didn't happen. That's the truth. Okay. It's also to be noted the most critical issue of Revelation 13. Guess what? The two beasts, or the mark of the beast. The most critical issue. It's not the major issue of Revelation 13, and we've said it in a prior video. What is the most critical issue of Revelation 13? It sits right smack dab in the middle. The Lamb slain. Okay. The most important point of this apocalyptic chapter is verse 8, and the recognition of the Lamb slain from before the foundation of the world. Well, many may say, look, I'm okay with that. I know he's the Lamb slain. But for many, you could say, well, wait a minute. You just said you believed in the Lamb slain from before the foundation of the world, but you believe that he was begotten or birthed or brought forth. See, it just doesn't line up. It's his eternal identity is what the critical, central issue is here. Okay. The reason is this fact connects to the first angel of Revelation 14. Like a sealed book. So what does that mean? So the first angel says to worship, fear God and worship him that made. That's two. That's not one. Okay? The triune Trinity, monotheism, one God, or anything else. Okay? So the decision as to who is Christ pivots on only one theological axis, and that's the great declaration of Deuteronomy 6:4, otherwise known as the Shema of Israel. And because of why he is the second eternal divine of John 1. Moreover, Christ is the second divine of the first angel's warning, worthy of worship, and the enemy wishes to obliterate our Savior's eternal identity. Okay? It all turns on on only one word, and that word is one. Was there one God or two gods from all eternity? Okay? So, some may say, well, what's the fuss? Okay, but it's a big deal. Okay? Because the first angel confirms to fear God, number one, and to worship He who made, that's two. And 1 plus 1 only ever equals 2. And I've heard of a particular individual in Australia, when asked, what is 1 plus 1? And that individual actually said 1. Okay. Alright, so Laodicea, that's not a problem. We do, But the first angel's warning is all about the number one issue of the abomination of desolation in the time of Revelation 13. Why? Very few recognize the second eternal divine of John 1:1. Okay? But you may be saying, well, I believe in God and I believe in Jesus, I believe in the Holy Spirit. And then you turn around and say, but there's only one God. But there was two in beginning, okay? And through the incarnation, the Bible reveals three now. But then you say, but there's only one God? Well, okay, so you're saying either one of them exists, but you're denying the other two. All right. So the first angel's warning is all about the number one issue of the abomination of desolation in the time of Revelation 13, just before us. Very few recognize the second eternal divine of John 1:1, who was also God. There was two divine associates, two everlasting fathers. You say, what? Isaiah 9. Okay, it's prophecy of the coming Messiah. His name shall be called Counselor, Prince of Peace. But it says Father of Eternity. Are you going to say that's wrong? And not an eternal or emanated Son. And that's Isaiah 9:6-7. And also John 1:1-3 is describing the Elohim, gods, plural. And in beginning, there were two. Gods, plural. Okay. Philippians, He emptied Himself of the form of God. He sends His Holy Spirit, the Spirit of Christ. There are three now. Gods, plural, Elohim. See, it doesn't do any damage to the fact that there were two in beginning. And then you actually start to realize, what our salvation and our redemption, how it impacted the Godhead, and what he emptied Himself from. Okay, but what was the new entrant was, how it says, God was manifest in the flesh. It wasn't before that. Okay, but He emptied Himself of the form of God. So the two everlasting fathers, and the Word is also an everlasting Father. It is He who made, which is the Lamb slain from before the foundation of the world. The whole Logos of John 1:1, who was God, and was with God in beginning, the Elohim. The two divines, Anarche, which means in beginning. That's from John 1. Okay. So is it that important? Because, it gets back to the entire warning of the first angel. What does the first angel warn you about? What does it basically boil down to? He's basically warning you, because Christendom, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, okay, I've got here, the Catechism of the Catholic Church, where it says, and I'm I'm going to replace the words Christians because there's nothing Christian about this. It says the faith of all Catholics rests on the Trinity. And the mystery of the Most Holy Trinity is the central mystery of the Catholic faith and life. Okay, and I exchanged the words Christian faith and life and the faith of all Christians rests on the Trinity for Catholic because there's nothing Christian about that. Because that's not Christ. Okay? He is not a Trinity. Okay? John 1:1 remains, steadfast. But, I sent a message to a friend because when I woke up this morning. And so the question was, because this friend is, working on a radio station that is sending out the three angels' messages. So my question was, if the first angel's message said there was only one God, that there was a Trinity, and I said there were many gods, wouldn't I be preaching contrary to the first angel's message? Of course I would. But if John 1:1, Revelation 4 and 5, and Zechariah 3, and Isaiah 44, and many others, including the great declaration that we're talking about here with Deuteronomy 6, and the first angel's message is saying there were two, not one, not three, not many or any other more, that there were two in beginning, which is the first angel's warning you to fear God, that's one, and worship Him that made, that's the second, equals a oneness in duality. That's unmistakably two. So in the SDA Church, via the SDA 28 Fundamental Beliefs, numbers 2 and 4, they say that there is only one God, a Trinity. Isn't this preaching contrary to the first angel's message? Hence the warning. Okay? Because the entire warning of the first angel gets back to the number one theological question, who is God? This is what brings the great declaration fair and square into the public domain, and those against the Shema, and from thence cometh either the beast mark or God's warning of the third angel. Okay? And this is why it's all about two Hebrew words. And those two Hebrew words are echad or yeked, translated as one. Okay. As this discussion continues, you will see how the first angel is implicitly connected to the great declaration of Deuteronomy 6:4. What does that mean? So, the first angel is basically saying, here's the warning, right? You need to make sure. Warning, hello, wake up. Fear God and worship Him that made. So who are we to worship? The two eternal divines of John 1:1. And that blows the Trinity and monotheism and one God doctrine and Christ begotten or birthed or brought forth or emanated in eternity. It just blows it out of the water. This is the warning. Are you going to heed the warning? And what connects it to Deuteronomy 6:4 is the fact that in the Hebrew, in the original, and people can try and get around this all they want, but the fact is that Deuteronomy 6:4 is saying, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our gods, the Lord is echad. So gods, plural, echad equals oneness and duality. So what is it basically saying? There are two who work together as one. Anything other than that consists of your false Shema. And what you're going to see with this, and we may not be able to cover everything in this thought paper, but this is just, here's the summary. Here's what it is in a nutshell. In Deuteronomy 6, God said, here, I'll read it for you. Okay? So the warning, here it is. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Okay. Hebrew, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our gods, because the word God there is Elohim, means plural. not just one, is one. And that word is the word akkad, which means a oneness and duality. It does not mean singular. So hear, O Israel, the Lord our God's is akkad, oneness and duality, Lord. But the Lord goes on to say, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thy house, and when thou walkest in the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thine hand, and they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes. On the hand, frontlets between thine eyes. So, where else do you see that? Okay, so here's the genuine. Alright? Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God's oneness and duality, two eternal divines, John 1:1, on the hand and on the forehead. So the enemy makes a counterfeit, right? With the misinterpretation of the Shema in Deuteronomy 6:4. And this is sung and prayed around the world. And the conclusion is, oh, there's only one God. Well, that's wrong. And this is what this is saying. And so the enemy makes this counterfeit. Oh, wait a minute. Remember the right hand and the forehead? Here, Revelation talks about the mark of the beast on the right hand and the forehead. Interesting, huh? Okay. And this text with John 1 gives rise to the awareness of why worship of who also was God, and it is this which is indicative to the mark in the hand or the forehead and is related to the great declaration. Okay? So there's four outcomes, all right, that exist in respect to the first angel. Because God saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus and for the word of God, and which had not, one, worshipped the beast, that's the one outcome, neither, two, his image, neither had, three, received his mark upon their foreheads, that's the third outcome, or in their hands, Revelation 20 verse 4. So these four outcomes bring us back to reconsider the number one theological issue of the 1290 literal days. What is it? It's a matter of worship and who? Of the abomination of desolation. Laodicea have systematically applied the first angel's message to a day of worship. First angel's message? Oh, it's about the Sabbath. Where does it say anything about the Sabbath? It says, fear God and worship him that made. 2. Distraction, big time. Oh, it's about the Sabbath. It's Sabbath right now while I'm doing this video. Am I worshiping the Sabbath? No, I'm worshiping he who made on the Sabbath. That's why it cannot be about the day of worship, the fourth commandment, because Sunday in the national Sunday law is contrary to the Sabbath. But that's what Laodicea apply it as. That is not what the first angel is saying, but worse in respect to who is God. Laodicea fully accepted the central doctrine. The faith of all Catholics rests on the Trinity. They accepted the central doctrine of the little horn, the Trinity, as has the majority of Christendom. Find me a church out there that doesn't have one form or another of the Triune Trinity, or one God. Okay, what happens when the wicked one of 2 Thessalonians, okay, of the third temple, this eighth king, eighth head, king. What happens when he builds this third temple and also observes the Sabbath? You may be thinking, well, what is that supposed to mean? Hold on. And how is this related to the third temple? How is this related to the Shema and then to the mark of the beast? Okay. Did not God say the scarlet woman was destroyed by the 10 kings? And then came the 8th king, and then his era of 1260 literal days? Of course he did. Revelation 17, 16 to 18. Did not God say through Zechariah the 10 men would take hold of the skirt of a certain individual? Zechariah 8, 23. Let us go with you, for we have heard that God is with you. Okay? So what does that mean? Okay, well, 5 are fallen: Justinian, Charlemagne, Charles the Great. Um, sorry. Justinian, Charlemagne, Otto the Great, Charles the Fifth, and Napoleon. 5 are fallen. 1 is Victor Emmanuel. Okay. Okay. That's 6th. 7th. Alright, we're waiting. The 7th one's going to be next. Whoever that is. And then there's the 8th. But that 8th with the 10 kings, they destroy the woman. Okay. And then you have these 1260 literal days. But this, 10 men, these 10 kings, in combination with this 8th king, they destroy the woman. And isn't it interesting how the 10 men in Zechariah correspond to the 10 kings in Revelation 17? Okay, more on that later. The National Sunday Law routine is is this National Sunday Law routine a valid conclusion concerning the worship of the beast, the image, and receiving mark on the foreheads or in the hands? How does the National Sunday Law relate to the third temple, the Shema? It doesn't. Okay. So the Great Declaration, when any discussion or analysis about the mark of the beast is to be considered, the first angel's message concerns who you worship, not a day. Okay, so the Shema, Deuteronomy 6:4, is the great declaration of who God is. Hear, Israel, the Lord our God's work together as one. The two of them. The council of peace was between the two of them. John 1:1, Zechariah, Isaiah 44:6, Genesis, let us make man. Even at the Tower of Babel, we'll cover that. Let us go down. Alright? It's in contrast to the false gods of the nations. Most Christians would be inclined to translate this declaration as, I, the Lord thy God, am one. But this is not the reality of the verse being declared, because of the following two words, which are the word Elohim and the two words for one, which are Echad and Yakid. Elohim is a plural word which translates as gods, plural, not one, and not as God singular is translated into the English language. Hence the misapplication, misinterpretation. So basically speaking, I, the Lord thy, am one. Because I, the Lord thy gods, am one. See, they work together. And the rabbinic scholars will try to do all sorts of acrobatics in order to avoid the plural usage of the word Elohim, which is plural and sticks out like a sore thumb in the book of Genesis 1:26, where it is stated, God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. That's a oneness in duality. He was not talking to himself, so forget the acrobats of all the, it's not really meaning plural and, this, that, and the other. Phooey. Alright? So the one word, Echad. One of the words for one in the Bible is Echad, and it translates as a unity, which is one in purpose and agreement. Okay? Like, the Tower of Babel. So yeah, here it is. Give help. So the Elohim gods came down and scattered them. Give help. Let us go down and mingle their pronunciation, so that a man doth not understand the pronunciation of his companion. Okay? So here we see a second instance in which the unity of God is defined by the word us, plural in terms of dual usage of the word Echad. Which is one. God, which is defined by the word us. In other words, we see two separate beings as presented in John 1:1, which states that in beginning the Word was with God. He wasn't by himself, and was God. The word us in Genesis 1:26 in its use at the Tower of Babel clearly defines the understanding of the original two of John 1:1. Okay? Who were present at Babel and came down to see what was going on. And both Elohim are referred to as Yahweh. Okay? So like the uses for the word echad are the following. A man and a woman shall be one. I'm married. We're still two individuals, but, you know, God's intention, a man shall leave his father and mother, and they shall be joined to his wife, and they shall be echad. One. Not literally. They would work together as one. God was giving us an example. Oneness and duality. But they are, as a man or woman, are two separate individuals in time and space, but they get married in order to form a oneness, a unity, while at the same time maintaining their own singular bodies as individuals in space and time. Hello? That's why we have John 1:1. There are two. The Shema, they work together as one. Isaiah 44, they're both speaking. And if they're both speaking at the same time and they say there is, there's no other God, then there isn't any other beside the two of them. Now we come to the one word one, which is yakid. So the word yakid translates as a singularity or one literal individual. Okay, and there's examples here that you can click on, such as Abraham having one literal son of the promise. Once these words echad and yakid are clearly defined and applied in context, there should be no confusion in reference to the correct interpretation of the Shema of Deuteronomy 6:4. And there's examples here for links for you to click on for further study. So the question to be asked about the mark of the beast is the following. From where does the New Testament, Revelation 13:16, borrow the concept or linguistic imagery? Where does the New Testament borrow the concept or linguistic imagery of the forehead and the right hand? The mark of the beast is received here or here. Where else do you find it? We just read it in the Shema. God said, they're to be written on your hand and on the frontlets between your eyes. So what does it boil down to? The true Shema, the genuine, God's people, are going to receive the true sealing. And it's not saying you have to, the mark of the beast, 666 tattooed on your forehead. Look, whatever it is, the thing is, it's a matter of worship. What you believe here, okay? Because the mark of the beast is not going to be the Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God's working together as one, oneness and duality. The mark of the beast is not going to be John 1:1. In beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The mark of the beast is not going to have anything to do with two and arche in beginning. The mark of the beast is going to be saying there's only one. So if you accept the true Shema, if you accept John 1:1, you're going to have the genuine, you're going to have the true. And then this is the warning, look out, right? Because the first angel's warning is fear God and worship him that made. Third angel's warning have nothing to do with this beast, this image, this mark. Alright? What is it basically saying? Have nothing to do with this triune Trinity, one God, monotheism. And where does it point you to? Where does the first angel point you to? It points you back to John 1:1 every time. Okay. So, and the answer is is from the Shema, and because it says, "And hast bound them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall have been for frontlets between thine eyes." So, in the thought paper, there's a part here on the role of the Tephilim in Deuteronomy 6:8. So, remember the Tephilim are the little boxes, leather boxes that are strapped around the forehead and on the arm, going up and down the arm. And there's links, and there's from the Jewish library here. So these little boxes with scriptures and other little things are clearly in relation to a works-oriented program of literalness. And that's not what God's intention was. Because the modern day use of Tephilim is defined by the Apostle Paul as the circumcision of the heart. Okay, Romans 2:29, as well as a correct understanding of John 1:1, considering the warning as given in the first angel's message of Revelation 14, as well as the third angel's message, okay, against false worship, which amounts to a false Tephilim, on the forehead and on the right hand. Alright? And, which might include an upgraded use of a transhumanist technology, modern day Tephilim, tattoos, chips, and this is where it talks about a little bit about this technology. Well, we'll get to that. Because most of the so-called teachers of the mark of the beast theories never talk about this uniquely Jewish perspective regarding the use of a modern-day Tefillin, as well as where it will come from. Okay? And we've talked about this before, this Isaiah 2. And remember, Isaiah 2 is a prophecy that Isaiah saw. It's not saying, well, here it says, "And it shall come to pass in the latter end of the days, established in the mount of Yahweh's house above the tops of the mountains, and it hath been lifted up above the heights, and flowed unto it have all the nations, and gone have many peoples, and said," see, this is what people are doing, this is what Isaiah saw. It's not saying this is what God is going to do. "Come, and we go up unto the mount of Yahweh, unto the house of the God of Jacob, and he doth teach us of his ways, and we walk in his paths." Sounds like a third temple in Jerusalem, doesn't it? Okay, "And out of Jerusalem shall go forth, we will walk in his paths, for out of Zion shall go forth a law." A law. What law? The only law that God's interested in is the Ten Commandments, but here it says a law, and a word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. Well, this is when you really need to start thinking about these Noahide laws, and how, the role that they're going to play. The problem with Laodicea lays in the fact that it has already accepted a false Tephilim on the right hand and forehead. How? Wait a minute, you're really thinking, how has Laodicea, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, accepted a false Tephilim on the right hand and forehead? Central doctrine of the little horn, Trinity, fundamentalist doctrines number 2 and 4. There's only one God. Number 2. Number 4, eternal Son of God. Oh, how sad. And that's all contrary to the first angel's warning and the everlasting gospel. Because fundamental doctrine number 4 has a major flaw, considering the fact that the erroneous interpretation of the eternal Son, that doesn't say that in John 1:1. It doesn't say Father, Son. 2 in beginning. And don't forget the decree of Psalms 2. Hebrews. Paul brings this out. It was an assumed relationship. He was a son by decree, not literally. But this erroneous interpretation of the eternal Son presents Christ as an emanation from the Father before the ages were created. And even though Laodicea does lip service to John 1:1, they are deceived by the Greek mystical theology of the creeds, which was implanted in the fundamental statement of beliefs, alongside fundamental doctrine number 2, which is the Trinity doctrine. And it presents the oneness of God in terms of the word Yachid, or three hypostases. And there's examples here in the thought paper. The link is below. Click on it. Open up this thought paper. You can click where it says here and here. It'll open up the web page with the internet connection. Have a little read, right? If you really want to know. Okay? So when these 10 men hold the skirt of him that is a Jew, saying, "We will go with you, we have heard that God is with you." Third temple, Noahide laws, Jewish. What's one of the laws? Not to blaspheme God. What's the consequence? Capital punishment, having your head cut off. So, look, I'm not going to say that there is only one God. I am not going to subscribe to these Noahide laws. See Zechariah 23. And they say God is with you. And then upon the imposition of the 7 Noahide laws, a unity between the 3 monotheistic religions, Judaism, monotheism, and Catholicism, will be a common occurrence, augmented with a matrix based on the occult, which is the law of one. One, as presented by demons who will contribute their theological perspective. Remember, there's 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. White magic to the deceived multitudes by way of channelers and other false prophets. Oh boy, it's time to start taking warning. But here's the symbolism, the right hand. What is the symbolism of the right hand in the Bible? Well, just briefly. Superior blessing. Genesis 48. Excuse me. Right hand is a metaphor of the heart and wisdom. Ecclesiastes 10:2. Divine favor. Isaiah 41:13. 62:8. Revelation 2:1, 1:17, in Galatians 2:9, there's the right hand of fellowship and overall its strength, salvation, honor, and power. So there's your symbolism of the right hand. So that's why God used it, right? And so the enemy just makes a counterfeit with the mark of the beast. And it's all over either the false, one God, or the true, oneness and duality. Okay? Is it a convincing trick of the enemy to worship the Yachid, one God, and the 2 Thessalonians 2 guy who sits in the temple, builds the 3rd temple? Sells you the fact that the right of this right hand. Oh, look, you can receive this. Look at the fact of the right hand in the Bible. Blessing and honor. This would be an ongoing development during the 1260 literal days anyway. The other major problem is how all this is achieved literally in a limited time of, wow, only 30 days. After the transferal of power from the first beast to the second beast. Don't forget that. Seems impossible. And this is where it's mentioned this quantum technology has the answers. So, so here's the stickler. Who says it's a literal mark? Okay. Because remember, the man in linen has sealed his in Ezekiel 9, with Revelation 7, and he knows those who are sealed during the Revelation 7 sequence of time, and their names are retained in the Lamb's Book of Life. Those who aren't, their names are taken out. He it is who sees and identifies the sealed and those who have their heart and allegiance to the 8th king, and thereby are slain by the angels, in Ezekiel 9, with their sharp weapons. Ample has been the 2 witnesses' testimony. So you want to know what the 2 witnesses are going to have a testimony about? Come on. Is it going to be some, small side issue? Or is it going to be the issue that the first angel is warning about? It's a matter of worship. The third angel's message, it's a matter of worship. Because, remember, doesn't it say, look, I'll read it to you. If any man worship, there's your counterfeit. First angel's message, fear God. That's one. The second eternal divine is worship him that made. It's worship. The dangerous thing during the time of the abomination of desolation that's coming is that those who do not adjust to the first angel's warning, oh, there was two in beginning. Oh, I've been deceived all this time about this triune Trinity and, God in three persons, blessed Trinity. Hocus pocus. So those who do not adjust to the first angel's warning in the height of its emphasis, it's getting far too late. By the time when you get into the plus 30 days from the 1260 to the 1290, for then enters the additional 45 days from the 1290 to the 1335. It was in Daniel. It happened from 554 to 1814 to 1844 to 1889 with your 1260, 1290, 1335. Jesus referred to that prophecy in Daniel concerning those time, prophetic, days that equaled a year, 1260, 1290, 1335 years. He referred to that time and said, whoso readeth, let him understand. When you see the abomination of desolation, and he told you and me, and gave that as a sign of one at the end of times. Now, are we going to know when they start and end? Is it going to be a test? Rather, we can know that, right, the 1260, the 1290, and 1335 in Daniel went from 554 to the dates I just mentioned. But Jesus, by referring to it and use that as a sign for the last days, equals an apotelismatic. What does that mean? A dual, a second application of the same prophecy. And Revelation says it's 42 months. Okay? 3.5 years. That's what makes it literal. Not 1260, 1290, 1335 years, but days. Okay? So those who don't understand this, far too late by the time we get into that time. So how appropriate for this, the blessing and privilege to be able to understand and share this with you now. Okay. God has shown the entire issue of the apocalypse of Revelation 13 is the Lamb slain from before the foundation of the world. And Revelation 13 is the ultimate focus and importance. It's too late to even claim to know who is the individual that is ascribed with the number of his name 66. So, if you're not warning the first and third angel, what good is it going to matter to you if you can identify the individual who is 666 or what the mark of the beast is? Because, for one thing, if you don't understand that the mark of the beast is this false Shema, this false one God thing, you will have accepted it, and you'll be saying that the mark of the beast is, oh, it's in these, health mandates or whatever, and you'll miss the big picture, the point, and the truth about it all. It's all about the Lamb slain and his eternal identity and name. Conclusion. Notice how the 7 Noahide laws, which gives a link here where you can go read about that, explains the oneness and single God, Yechid. And notice how specific it is, which is to not profane the oneness of God in any way. Well, I'm going to be doing that, and I hope you will be too, because I want nothing to do with that false schema, that this oneness of God, because that's what the Second Thessalonians 2 guy is going to be promoting, and sorry, don't want anything to do with it. I don't want anything to do with the central doctrine of the little horn. And guess what? The 7 Noahide laws authorize capital punishment for blasphemy of the Great Declaration, which is the Shema. The irony is apostate Protestantism, the second beast of Revelation 13, has already clasped hands with the mystery of iniquity to the concept of universal morality. And there's a link. Okay? So how do you profane God's Yakid oneness as is stated in the 7 Noahide laws? How do you profane God's Yakid oneness as stated in the 7 Noahide laws? Well, the fact is, it is impossible to profane the Yakid of oneness as presented in the 7-9 laws. So how do you profane that? You won't profane it if you hold to the Gnostic Arian understanding, okay, about the Godhead that was taught by Wagner and Jones, all right, that Christ was begotten or emanated in eternity and was never eternal, contrary to the first angel in John 1. You won't profane this Yakid oneness, these Noahide laws or anything. When your church endorses the oneness of the creedal hypostasis triune trinity, that will never profane the oneness of the 7 Noahide laws, and you'll never profane the Yakid of Mystery Babylon is woven into Laodicea's number 2 and 4 of the 28 fundamental beliefs. And this is what you need to be profaning, rather than speaking against it, profaning the warning of the first angel, which says there are 2 in beginning. Okay? Alright? And the worship of Yakid, the oneness of God, the image of the beast, and this fact is long established. How say you? Easy. Foremost, the Yakid error of the Shema profanes the first angel's warning and therefore is related to Revelation 13:16. So those that are saying, oh, there's only one God, alright, that's profaning the first angel's warning. John 1:1. Okay? This massive unity in the Yakid oneness of God as a single God with no equal is recognized globally. But again, it's totally contrary to John 1 and the Echad of 2 divines, which equals oneness and duality. And this is the same Echad, the us, of Genesis 1:26, the 2 of them in John 1:1-3. What is absolutely true is this following fact: the mark of the beast is not here right now. Nor is the second beast imposing the mark or the worship of the image, and nor is it in capital punishment mode for not taking the mark. Okay. Is it wise to join the voices, the chorus calls of ministries today, who are saying, oh, the health mandates equals the mark? The only remote association of possibility is the mRNA technology and altering the genome given by the Creator, okay, which is He who made and is to be worshipped. So, alright, so let me see if I can put this simply. He who made me. If I go out and get a shot with this mRNA technology that changes my genome, which He made it this way, and I go out and get something that changes that, that's not the mark of the beast. But it is a conditioning, getting people ready to accept what's coming. Have a think about that. Because does the Bible say the mark of the beast causes sickness and even death when accepted? So does it say, those that receive the mark of the beast, they get sick and die? No. So it can't be the health mandates or the vaccine now, can it? The term pharmakia, medical interventions, is not the mark. Pharmakia equals sorceries equals deception, and in respect to the mandated health measures, which is in reality precognitive indication of the conditioning people to the acceptance of the real mark of the beast that's coming. Because basically, what is it about? Okay, so there's this virus out there, and you got to get this to survive and be saved. Coming events, casting their shadows before. Okay, a conditioning, getting people ready. So when something comes along, you've got to accept this to, not be killed, or to be able to buy and sell, and to, stay comfortable. Further, ultimately, the mark is not implemented by the first beast of Revelation 13, as many insist. God said, what? God said it's the second beast, not the first beast. No doubt the success of the pharmakia mandates will coalesce the pathway to unity and acceptance in worship. Because God states the first angel's warning is the basis of the mark and image, because the culmination of the decision about the first angel is as discussed above, and it's about the word that describes the two in beginning and in the Shema as Elohim, God's, working together as one, oneness and duality, two divines, and not the Yakid, or false one God of Deuteronomy 6:4. How the second beast delivers the mark in the right hand at the end of the 1290 days waits to be seen. For that to occur, there is a brokering of the transition of power from the first beast, the leopard-like beast, to the second beast. There's the link. And the basis for the mark, God said, is connected to the Shema. What is God saying? Look, the mark of the beast is received. What's connected? The Shema, the true. What does it boil down to? Either the mark of the beast, one God, or two eternal divines. The genuine Shema in Deuteronomy 6:4, the great declaration. While the reasoning that is pressed everywhere there is stealth with health mandates, to trust the pharmakia, the fact is there was no disruption to buy and sell. Face covering, and for non-compliance of the health mandate, there has been fines, and for some sectors the loss of work. We've experienced it. Some insist this equals the mark of the beast and the mark. But again, no, it is not the same. There is no capital punishment. Who would accept a health mandate with the penalty of capital punishment? But many have accepted the health mandates. Oh, got to put this on, got to take this, got to do this. An analysis must resolve the first angel's warning and how the implications God says that involves the mark on the head, the hand or forehead, in respect to the great declaration, Hear, O Israel, God's working together as one. Many ministries get a financial boost. Send us your money. With headline preaching about the health mandates. And while it's convenient to say the health mandates equals the mark, again, it cannot be. And there's no relation to the National Sunday Law. And there's other conclusions here that you can click on and go read that we won't cover just now. But and this talks about this experience of Stephen, who mentioned about the star of their god Ramphan that you can find on the flag. Okay, the Star of David. Because God and Jesus equals 2. And Acts 7 and John 1:1 testify to this. Can you imagine how riled the 8th king would become at you when the Yakid, or this one God of the Shema, is challenged? And you're saying that there's 2? Well, it's a strong possibility, since any testimony of the God of John 1:1 means a repeat of Daniel 7:13, which Jesus quoted in Matthew 26:64, And when the high priest heard this, he tore his robes. Remember? Because Jesus was saying there were echad, two divines, and that he was one of them. And just as is the case of Stephen, they covered their ears on account of their yakid, one God. And Stephen was stoned. Stephen chilled the hearts when he said there were two divines from eternal ages. The fact is, Stephen gave a testimony and was basically giving the first angel's message warning. Stephen. The echad, oneness and duality of the Shema, the great declaration, was exposed, and Stephen suffered capital punishment. And as you have seen, the triune Trinity agrees with the yakid, or one, in reference to the Kabbalah. Come on. How long halt ye between two opinions? If John 1:1 is the truth about the Godhead, then follow it. But if this, the Elijah message, follow it. And we know this Catechism of the Catholic Church. Woman of Revelation 17 gets destroyed. So do you want to be part of that? There is no mark at this time. Portents of testing phases may exist. Predictive programming softens up the conscious, and developments in quantum technology is likely to be the omnibus mechanism to deliver the mark by the second beast of Revelation 13. Okay. Does it matter anyway to know what is the mark or the number of his name? Because there's no mark at this time. What do you have at this time? Either acceptance of the first angel or not. Okay. So if you identified the mark, what then? But as to how the mark is applied to the right hand, the reader should not be surprised in the developments of quantum technology. Here's the link. Click on it. And this means numerous avenues or options to interdict a literal mark per the authority of the individual, the 8th king in 2 Thessalonians. But note, he doesn't. Remember, it's not. God said it's the second beast of Revelation 13 who ushers in the mark. Right now, even into the time of the 1290 days, it does not matter trying to identify what precisely is the mark, or how, or what the process of the mark. And even if you did, what then? If you're not familiar with the first angel's warning, two eternal divines, worship them. Jesus said it's time of deception. Reread Matthew 24. Because Revelation 24 stipulates 4 avenues: the beast, the image, the mark upon the foreheads or hands, for beastly compliance. So whatever is the prime choice of the second beast in the last 30 days of the 1290 days of Matthew 24:15, God said the number one issue all through the 1290 days is the first angel's warning about the true Shema, the two eternal divines in the great declaration. It's about echad, oneness and duality, versus the counterfeit yakid, oneness, triune trinity, monotheism, one God, whatever you want it. Okay? The problem prevailing is a unity of consensus that God equals monotheism and nothing more. No one is interested in how their fundamental beliefs are supervised by the creedal yakid interpretation of Deuteronomy 6:4, or where 6:8 describes the right hand or the forehead. Corresponding to the same place where the mark of the beast is received. Even fewer are aware of the tefillin. Okay? The deception about who is God as worshipped the first angel said is the bugaboo, and then it's war with the dragon. The point is, why are everyone strung out trying to identify the mark of the beast on the hand or forehead? Oh, this is what doesn't make any sense. Everyone's, oh, what's the mark of the beast? What's this forehead and hand thing? Well, so that's the individual. What do you believe about God? Well, I believe in Trinity. Well, there's your mark of the beast. Watch him draw back in horror. Oh. Even if anyone knows precisely the mark in the hand, the fact is Revelation 13 is saying the Lamb slain from before the foundation of the world is the real importance. The fact is the correct response to the Akkad and not the Yakid is one salvation. The deception by the miracle-working false prophet is to accept the Yakid, one God, since it's already been signed off in the USA way back in 1992. The Yakid. 92? Noahide laws. Okay? We've talked about that before. Because in the link below is the thought papers on the masterpiece of deviltry. The real deal behind the scenes is the lamb slain. Revelation 13:8. The person that is not aware of this might hang on to righteousness by faith, but so do all the one God guys. Which brings us back to 1888. Jones and Wagner. Christ was begotten some point in eternity, they said. And they knew about righteousness by faith, but without the lamb slain, it was useless. They were in the alpha of deadly heresies, not even recognizing it. And that's why 1888 failed. And it led directly to what E.G. White said in Tasmania in 1896. And then the same year there was the meeting in Vienna led by Theodor Herzl. Here's the link. And this commenced rise of prophecy of the spreading of the tents of Japheth. And we're going to get more into that. Which is the very fact God said 10 men holding the skirt in Zechariah 8 equals the 10 kings. Only 1 hour with the beast. Revelation 17:12 brings together the oneness of Yakid and the 7 Noahide laws very nicely. Wow. The 10 kings transfer their allegiance from the 7th to the 8th king. Revelation 13:11 and 12. From scarlet to lion-mouthed leopard beast. And to do that, the 7 Noahide laws from Isaiah 2, the going forth of the law. Come, let's go. Yeah? Holds that the law goes forth out of the great city, Jerusalem. To all who are entranced about a literal mark, the first angel said the entire apocalypse swings on the translation and application of Akkad versus Yakid. The big issue of the apocalypse is the lamb slain and Akkad of John 1:1. And when you understand that, you will have no trouble with the first beast, the second beast, the 10 kings, and why the woman was destroyed. The great declaration of the 2 divines equals the Akkad 1, oneness and duality. John 1, John 17, which is, and Deuteronomy 6:4. I hope this helps. God bless. Until next time.